So now that we've looked at an NVivo project from scratch, an empty project, it's now useful to actually look at one that looks like one we've got some data populated into it. So I'm going to return to the home screen here and I'm going to open Environmental Change Down East, which is the demo project within QSR NVivo. And this is a really useful way for you to get a feel for what an actual NVivo project would look like when you start analysing your data within NVivo. So you'll see we've got the exact same layout as the blank project, but we now actually have some data in here. So if we look at internals, we can see this researcher has created a variety of subfolders to install their data into. We've got this folder here, area and township. If I open up this marsh file, for example, just double click it, and you'll see this is a photograph, and it's allowed the researcher to put some notes about the photograph down the side. If I move to interviews, you'll see we have a range of different interviews here. I'm going to open this one with William as an example. Once again, double click and we can see there's an interview transcript. Now you'll notice we can have a range of different formats. So this interview with Helen is an example of an audio interview. So the researcher has a transcript here and they've also got the audio that will play across the top. And the interview with Betty and Paul is an example of a video recorded interview. So you get the audio across the top, the video here, and then the transcript down the side. And one of the advantages of using NVivo to actually transcribe your data is that it will enable you to synchronize the text with the actual transcript, with the video. So as people are speaking, the transcript will roll down. Now, before you get excited, unfortunately NVivo will not do the transcription for you. That is still a manual process, but at least this is one that will help us facilitate it. And you'll see at the top here, you'll find it will enable you to slow down the playback speed, increase the volume so that it's easier to do the transcription as well. You'll see this research has also included some newspaper articles. If I head to the news articles folder, and I can click on these PDFs here, and we'll see a variety of different kind of PDF style resources. Now, while this project only has two, it's a really good demonstration of how QSR NVivo can be used for a literature review. Now, under project administration, they've got a number of different notes that they've made as part of their project, and under social media here you'll see an example of a data set within NVivo. So we can edit Excel documents, or we can data mine using a tool called NCapture. And what that enables us to do, it enables us to collect data from YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Of course, there are ethical concerns with each of those, and that's not what this video is here for, but it does enable us to at least data mine from these websites if it is within the remit of our project. And finally, we can see here there's a survey, and one thing that QSR NVivo does enable us to do, it has a SurveyMonkey plugin that you can use to directly pull information from SurveyMonkey, or if you are using a tool like BOSS, that's Bristol Online Surveys, and it's the tool that the university supports, it will enable you to input this if you use it as a Excel style export from BOSS and put that into NVivo. So we can see this is a really useful way for us to manage a variety of data sources, and everything that we've looked at here would actually be physically stored within the NVivo file. So it's stored within there and it's safe in the database that is NVivo. If I look at externals, these are the different things that the researchers were unable to put in. So if I open this first one here as an example, this will be a proxy reference to something that can't be stored within the NVivo file. And finally, if I go to memos, we'll see there's a whole range of different notes that the researcher has taken on different aspects of their project. Now, I'm not going to look at framework matrices at this point. That's quite an advanced analytical tool. I'm just going to move straight on to nodes. So if we close all of these documents that we've opened here, we'll see what we have down the side, a whole range of different themes that are available within the project as defined by the researcher. And this is one of the more powerful ways that NVivo can actually analyze our data, or at least help us do it. So we can see here there's a whole range of different themes that the researchers have identified within their project, and if I click on these little pluses here, you'll see there's an ability for them to tree the different themes to quite a number of different levels to break down that research that they've taken. Now, if I double click on one of these particular themes, it will bring up all references to that theme within the project. So here we can see this is every time the due to the cost of doing business theme has appeared within the project. I can see where it came from. So for example, this quote here came from Barbara. This one here came from the file Cooper presentation. So it's a really useful way for you to bring your data together. We'll look at this in more detail and how that looks in other videos, but this is essentially where the themes are stored. Now, I referred to case nodes that enables us to assign metadata to a theme. So one very brief example of this we can find under Places and People, the folder here, and then the interview participants. Now if I click on one of these, Barbara for example, essentially it's a bit like Barbara as a theme. Every time Barbara has said something, the researcher has coded it at the theme or case node of Barbara. Now if I right click on this and I open up the node properties, we can see the different pieces of information that the researcher has associated to Barbara. So we've got what her respondent number is, what her township, her community, how many generations down east she'd lived, whether she's a commercial fisher or a recreational fisher, and loads of other pieces of information down the side here. And what this enables us to do later when we're querying and managing our data, we can actually search it based on those demographics. So that can be very useful, particularly for anyone who's doing a comparative study. So I could, for example, look at people who were managers versus employers, or male versus female, or based in Kuwait versus the UK. And of course you can have many more categories than that, but that's just a few examples of how it can be useful in comparative studies. You'll see there are a number of relationships that this researcher has defined here. So we can see Daniel is married to Maria, Mary is married to James. We've got a theme link here, so real estate development impacts water quality, if I move this across here. Now before any of these kinds of relationships can be defined, we need to define them as classifications. And really if we click here, this is where we'll see a lot of this coming together. If I open classifications, we can see the different kinds of source classifications in the project. So I can define one of the sources as a book, or an image, or a journal article, or a reference, or an interview. And as part of that, if I open interview for example, you'll see there's a number of different pieces of metadata that I can assign to a source that's been classified as an interview. In this case I can say who the interviewer was, what the date of the interview, and what the time of the interview was. If I move to my node classifications here, you'll see we've got the exact same kind of thing for the person and the place and the Twitter user classifications. And so that enables us to start assigning metadata to a theme. If we recall Barbara, it's a bit like Barbara was a theme. Now this is called a case node because we've actually assigned some metadata to it, but it enables us to provide much more information about some of the text within our document. The final thing we'll see under classifications are our relationship types, and you can see there's 4 defined in this project: associated, contributes to, impact, and is married to. So after, for example, the is married to relationship type has been established, it would then let me go back into the project and link 2 of the participants together. So we've looked at a blank project and what the NVivo file looks like, and this video has very much looked at what a populated research project looks like. Now that we've looked at what NVivo looks like in the end result, we're going to go back into our empty project and we're going to start putting some of this into action. However, before I do move into that, I just want to show some of the advantages of using NVivo other traditional tools. So clearly it's very powerful for me to be able to go into my themes here, click on one of them, and actually get every single reference, no matter what interview, what survey, what document that appears in. So it's a very powerful way to manage the data, that's very clear. But it does enable us to explore our transcripts in a lot more detail. So if I head into my sources, for example, interviews, and open this interview with William. What I can do in this, I can go to my View tab and I can turn on coding stripes, and I'm just in this case going to turn it on for everything. Now if I drag this across, we'll see this will enable us to explore this transcript. So down the side I can see all of the themes, and if I click on one of them, for example local identity, it will highlight where that theme appeared in the transcript. These will print off, and trust me, supervisors love them. Hopefully this has been a very useful introduction to the first three aspects of NVivo, and we'll look at how we do this in the next video.